Usually what a minute clock, but I'll give you 2 minutes.
Any amount of time this early in the morning. Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno. The Autry has supposedly withdrawn their applications for changes of the Griffith Park campus. We are still concerned that the Recreation and Parks Department has not made the Autry comply with their current ground lease requirements. No payments, no drawings, no approvals for many of the events being conducted at the Autry. Therefore, we would request that the Recreation and Parks Department look into auditing the last 20 years of the Autry's lack of compliance with their ground lease agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. May I suggest if you want to voice your concerns to go to the Recreation and Parks Commission and voice that as well. Good. Any other one here want a public comment on any subject here? Okay, public comment. You fill out a card? Ms. Doyle? You could fill it out afterwards if you want. You could do either time or just... Okay, thank you. Good morning.
How are you?
Fine. How's Venice? How's Venice?
How's Venice?
Are you out in Venice?
No. I'm in Hollywood.
Where?
Melrose La Brea?
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you ever in Venice?
No.
All right, for the record, state your name.
Okay. Catherine Doyle, and I live in Hollywood.
But you got a daughter?
A son, actually.
Son.
Yeah.
But I saw you at the observatory.
Exactly.
All right, okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
I got it right.
So, anyway, good morning. I've come here to respectfully urge you to agendize the motion presented by Councilmember Tony Cardenas on July 22nd regarding recent developments relative to the death of the elephant Gita at LA Zoo in 2006. As you know, the U.S. Department of Agriculture fined the LA Zoo more than $3,000 for failure to provide adequate veterinary care to Gita in the chimp Judio. You may recall that Gita was left unattended for 12 or more hours with no medical attention, despite the fact she was observed down and in a dangerous position the evening before, and veterinarians described her death as slow and excruciating. I personally requested records from the LA Zoo for information on the outcome of that USDA investigation, but the records were withheld in violation of the California Public Records Act, which I believe is unconscionable for a city department. Further, the zoo also failed to provide the city council with this information during the debates on the Pachyderm Forest, and instead it pretty much covered up this potentially damaging information. So I believe it's important that the zoo's conduct be publicly discussed and action taken as prescribed in Councilmember Cardenas' motion. And if the motion is not heard in your committee, it'll be the second time that a motion regarding Gita's death has been ignored by the committee and never received a public hearing before council. In fact, the first motion was presented by you, Mr. Labange, back in 2006 and called for the zoo to report to the council with the results of Gita's necropsy. And despite my letter to this committee on September 2006, the motion was never heard. So your motion back in 2006 actually said that Gita's death raised legitimate questions. It was a good opportunity to have public discussion on this matter, and yet no action was taken on it. So, well, now we have a second opportunity. And now there are more legitimate questions and just as much need for public discussion. So please don't quash the second chance for open discussion of the zoo's care for Gita and the unacceptable cover-up by city department. I urge you to agendize Councilmember Cardenas' motion.
Thank you very much. If you fill out a card, and also if you have a copy of that letter, I'd like it.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Thank
I can
you.
provide
And
it.
your phone number and everything.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any public comment? Okay, item number 1.
Items number 1 and 2 are commissioners.
Is anyone present at this time? Well, so we'll hold those. Item number 3.
And item number 3 is a report from the LA for Kids Steering Committee relative to an amendment of the Prop K grant agreement with concerned citizens of South Central Los Angeles.
Good morning, Councilmember Bernice Howells, Office of the CAO. The LA for Kids Steering Committee is recommending an amendment to This- We don't, it's supposed to be located within a mile of the new location?
Okay, and you're just going to move it from one school to the other?
Yes.
And the councilwoman of the district supportive of it?
Yes, the staff has cleared this issue with the council member.
Great.
The additional changes would be to extend the deadline and also to retain retention of Prop K funds through the completion of an independently funded Phase 2.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on here for Mr.
Yeah, Neil Drucker, Bureau of Engineering. Just wanted to answer the question. Yeah, the Dorothy V. Johnson Opportunity Center is located at 333 East 54th Street in LA, and the proposed project site is 4410 McKinley Avenue, and as Bernice said,
In the
they're
area.
a mile apart.
Thank you. Did you get all the information from the last speaker? Yeah. Thank you. We'll recommend approval.
But I don't have the letter.
Next item.
And then for clarification, item number 3 was approved by the chair of the committee.
Approved by what?
The chair of the committee?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, thank you. And item number 4 is a motion, Coretz Parks, relative to a refund of an arts development fee to Beverly Hills adjacent.
Hi.
Hi, Pat Gomez, Cultural Affairs Department. This is a pretty straightforward request. This is a case where the developer paid an arts development fee for a office building construction. Due to the economy, that project has been reconfigured, and he's no longer building that office building. The amount of the fee exceeds our department's ability to process without council approval, so that's why it's before you.
Right. Project's not being built. They paid it. We
Yes.
have to pay it back with interest, or do we keep the interest?
There's no interest.
When do they pay it?
It was not that long ago. I'm not aware of interest. It goes into the Fund 516.
Well, we should find out when it comes to council, have that question asked.
Yeah.
Okay. So recommend approval on number 4.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Next item.
Item number 5 is a motion, Weezer Labange, relative to requesting the general manager of El Pueblo to report on eviction procedures, the history of rent disputes, including the Casa de Sosa case, and marketing strategies to increase attendance at the El Pueblo Historic Monument.
Okay, hold on just a second, please. Sit down and relax. You know what, should I let it check? Do we know, any other members coming?
I did not.
See if they're coming or not. Go slow or go fast. Mr. Andrade? Yes.
Good morning, Chairman Robert Andrade, General Manager for El Pueblo. I've asked Ed Robles of our property management to also attend this meeting, should we have any questions regarding the processes, and we can get into that as to how we approach this, and also ask the city attorney, who's provided us with direction and advice regarding the case. There may be a statement relative to the issue.
Yeah, the Sosa case is still active litigation. The matter has been appealed, so I don't know how much detail that we can give.
All we want to know is what are the rules, what are very knowledgeable rules, what you're falling by. Don't need the details of the case, just need the rules, what affects everybody, whether it's today, tomorrow, or yesterday, what affects it.
So if Mr. Robles can walk us through those.
Our commission requires us to provide a report of anyone 120 days in arrears of rent. Prior to those 120 days, our process is that after someone is 30 days late, we give them a first notice of late rent. On 60 days being late, we give them a second notice. On 90 days of being late, we give them a third notice. If they still haven't paid, we give them a fourth notice on the 120th day, scheduling the item for commission, and then we approach the commission with the authority to enter into a repayment plan or evict as necessary. The repayment plan is an attempt at mediating the situation and trying to, keep the tenant in place. However, at any point in time, should they come in and pay the rent current, then we start the process all over again. We start back with a 30, a 60, a 90, a 120 day. I think this is probably one of the most liberal systems in the city as far as dealing with late rent payments.
Good. So we welcome Mr. Reyes. We started off like Tina Turner and Proud Mary, very slow. So we got some items out of the way, which I'll repeat. We just get there, pick it up there. And then we have the item, Mr. Weezar's motion requested the general manager report on the procedures of eviction. And basically, if you could repeat that for clarification, the last property manager. And introduce yourself for Mr. Reyes, please.
I'm Ed Robles, Senior Real Estate Officer at El Pueblo. Our process in dealing with late rents is to initially start off with a notice of late rent payment, a first notice 30 days after the person is 30 days late. Once they are 60 days late, we issue a second notice of late rent. When they are 90 days late, we issue a third notice of late rent. When they are 120 days, we issue a notice that we will be going to the commission seeking the authority to evict or to enter into repayment plan, depending on the commission's guidance. The repayment plan is an attempt at mediating the situation and trying to come up with a solution that keeps the tenant in place. If the tenant does not perform under the repayment plan, then we forward the matter to city attorney for the eviction process, and that can, from start first filing to the actual unlawful detainer, it can go anywhere from 60 to 90 days before the person is evicted. Should, at any point in time, prior to the matter being referred to city attorney, be 30 to 120 days, at any time should the tenant come in and pay in full, then the process starts all over again.
If they fail to pay again.
If they fail to pay again. The clock rolls back if they're 30 days late again. We go through the whole process.
Would you say this is most liberal?
I would say it's, having worked at the port, General Services Asset Management, BOE, I would say this is probably one of the most liberal processes in the city.
What's the port do?
Pardon me?
Like, what's the port do? Like, a port's a call, right? They
issue a 30-day notice once they are 30-day late. I mean, they file, and then they have not had too many evictions, but people usually pay up a lot sooner than 120 days.
Then they still have 20 days. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How often does this occur? How many tenants do we have at El Pueblo, and what's the frequency of these types of actions? And is there entities that have a preponderance or a trend in which they tend to be more apt to conduct themselves a certain way that triggers these kinds of policies?
Yes, the majority of the tenants are good, hardworking tenants. They do get in trouble from time to time, maybe get 30 days late, but they pay up right away. I would say there are maybe, out of the 78 tenants, maybe a good 4 or 5 that know how to work the system and actually make their payments quarterly. And
Quarterly?
Sure, because they go 30, 60, 90, 120, then they come in and make a payment. Then it starts all over again. They'll go 30, 60, 90, 120 days, they'll come in and make a payment.
So from a revenue stream, for those 4 or 5 tenants, we are continuously behind what we anticipate to be our revenue base for that year.
Sure.
That is correct.
That's correct.
And so how do, I want to get into the management of that deficit, but 4 out of 78 have the tendency to do that?
Yeah, about 4 out of 78. Right now, we have, the last aging report that we have, we actually have 8 people, 8 businesses in the rears. However, half of those, 4 of those 8, would be what Mr. Robles characterized as a 30-day, and then they pay up. The other 4 typically will go through 120 days, and just as we're getting to submit a report to the commission requesting authority to enter into repayment and if needed to evict, they will come and pay a 30-day payment. So then now they're 90 days in the rears, and we have to wait a month before we can go forward again to the commission.
Now, I'm sorry, have we ever taken the initiative of meeting with the four, either individual as a group, and say, we see this trend? I mean, how long has that, is that for 10 years, for 5 years, for 3 years, or is it sporadic?
I can say that for my, starting my fourth year there, it's been with 4 or 5 have been fairly constant within those, within that group. We also have 2 others that are on repayment plans, meaning they went to the 120, we went to the commission, and they are not only paying their rent, but also paying back the money that's owed to the city. And they're doing a good job of that, but it was...
Have we ever contemplated being proactive and meeting with them and seeing if there are other programs in the city that could help facilitate so they don't get to that point? Is there a way to help them with their business management, informally, without being punitive or without a club, that actually say, you know, we see these trends, is there something, can we get a business advisor here, can we get CDD to support you, can we provide technical assistance? Have we taken a proactive approach to help these businesses?
Yes, we hold, for the most part, barring any major traditional event, we hold monthly stakeholder meetings. And Mr. Andrade's been very instrumental in bringing people from CDD down, offering different business incentive programs and different educational tools that could help a business. Unfortunately, at that meeting, we had 2 people attend. You know, it's...
But on a personal level, have you ever gone to visit them and say, go to their booth or their
I go
place of business?
I go out there daily, and I push these
speak to them?
meetings, and I speak to them, and I know
Okay.
business is down. Why don't you guys come and take a look at what we can do for you? And, you know, 2 out of 78, it's not a good turnout.
All right, okay.
Thank you. Just a question, and we're not getting specific about any current cases that go on there. How long has this been the practice at El Pueblo? Was it prior to that when it was the Recreation Parks Commission? Or do you know?
I don't know. It was the practice prior to me getting there.
You're the general manager. Would you rather see the practice similar to what is at the port or general services? As an administrative way just to handle it? I know it's tough times and we want to help anybody, and I think Mr. Reyes articulated we don't want to be big, mean, spirited, but we have an operation there that's a business. It is our historic birthplace. I just happened to walk it yesterday I had a guest from in the Los Angeles, and we walked down the street and looked at it, and I thought about things and visited the Avila House and thanked the docent who was there and, you know, went on my way. But I thought, you know, is there a better tool for you? And then we're joined by Mr. Wesson now as well.
Good morning.
On item number 5. Thank you.
From an operational standpoint, yes. In fact, the items that we'll be coming forward with is a revised late rent policy that tightens that up a little bit, that still provides some level of flexibility. And again, as Mr. Robles mentioned, the mediation piece really is at the opportunity when somebody can come in and make a request, even before getting in the rears. We've had conversations with businesses like that as well, where we take it to the commission, it's all transparent.
Right.
But we believe that there are some loopholes in the existing policy that we would like to tighten up.
Very good. Okay. All right, well, we're going to send this forward to council. The one thing I do want to say before we go to council, I want you to call other California historic places, us in San Diego or San Francisco, just see what they do, see what the others do when they have cases. And I see the Chief of Staff for the 14th District. Do you have anything you want to add? Okay, we got some public comment on this. Edward Flores and Dr. Clyde Williams. So thank you, staff.
Good morning, council members. My name is Edward Flores, and I'm a 4th-generation merchant on Olvera Street. I'm the owner of Juanita's Cafe, and I'm also an OSMA member. I'm speaking on behalf of OSMA. Our president was unable to attend, regrettably, this morning, Vivian Bonzo. But we are concerned about this policy or the method that's being used to address the late rent. In the last 80 years since the inception of Olvera Street in the form that we know it now, no one has ever been evicted prior to this administration taking, coming in to play here. And we feel that it shows some shortcomings in the way that it's being addressed, these issues. And previous administrators have always had some remedy or some method to work with merchants on Olvera Street in collecting that rent, working on repayment plans, and working with the merchants and getting this issue resolved. It's never happened in the past. Vivian and Steve Jimenez worked on some suggestions that we forwarded to Councilman Huizar that provides a paper trail, mandates further meetings, and makes the process more transparent, and it lets the city council, the mayor, and other entities that might be interested in what's going on when addressing evictions on Olvera Street. And we thought that maybe that we could have a meeting with management and our councilmen and working out some kind of methodology that we could address this issue. The current policy right now was not in effect prior to this administration. This is something that's been created as we go along, and that's why I believe that you haven't seen any evictions prior to this. This has just started with this administration. We have currently, for example, Conchita Sosa present here right now, and she, under Rushmore's Advantages administration, the GM was able to work with them when they were 10 times in the arrears that they are currently in right now, and yet they were able to collect $140,000 that they owed at that time. And now that they're only supposedly about 13 in the arrears, they've chosen to evict them from the street as opposed to working diligently with them and trying to find some kind of solution to keeping them here. They are founding members on Olvera Street. Their father was actually here in 1932, so they're actually, heirs to founders on Olvera Street.
There's a reality that all agencies of the city government are trying to have practices and trying to be transparent. We welcome discussion with the council office, and they're nodding the general manager. You want to have a meeting with the association. Mr. Reyes?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I know we're not supposed to address a specific case at this time, so I want to try to ask my questions in generalities and
Yes.
and try to understand them.
Sure.
And clarify what you're saying. We just heard from the staff that
Yes.
they make an effort to speak to individuals as well as ask for group meetings.
Yes.
Yet you're saying that today there is no communication or there is no discussion, and you mentioned an acronym of a group that you represent. Can you?
OSMA, the Olvera Street Merchants Association. I'm speaking on their behalf. I was authorized to do so. This policy of 120 days was just implemented by this administration, and the merchants are only advised about it when they actually are in the arrears. This has not been officially adopted, or we have not been informed as a group or as merchants, either the OSMA or the independents, regarding this policy until you actually fall into the arrears. So this has been invented as we go along.
Is that correct, Mr. Andrade? It said they have no knowledge of this new system, they have no knowledge of this process, this is all new, invented as it goes along.
The policy for late repayment was developed and approved by the commission in 1997.
Okay, so
And Mr. Robles, or Mr. Flores, perhaps he is unaware of it, but all of this is transparent. It's a policy that has been established. City attorney's here.
Right.
Good morning. I'm Annette Bogno with the City Attorney's Office. I came on staff for the City Attorney in the year 2000, and I have a written document that predates my coming into working for the city, and it states the policy essentially the way that Mr. Andrade has.
does the leadership of the Merchant Association, are they aware of this
They are.
policy?
Yes, they are.
And we can prove that's written form, we've submitted to
Yes.
them, that they have access to it?
Yes, they do.
I have a
good.
document from her that actually to the contrary of that, where she states
Well,
here.
we're not going to argue those points. This is
Okay.
public comment on this issue, and I don't want to get involved with the case.
Exactly, exactly.
But we thank you for your comments, and we continue. When could you two meet again? Like, could you walk back together to Olvera Street and catch up on all the changes?
Of course we can. In
Okay,
fact,
so I would just say that.
he should well know, because at one time he was also on a repayment plan.
That is
All
correct.
right.
Okay.
Very good. Okay.
All right.
Clyde
you.
Williams and Ms. Sosa, please. You could take a seat, Ms. Sosa, if you'd like, up here.
Alvera Street, what's the value of an empty storefront in Alvera Street? We have many empty storefronts on Broadway, Figueroa, Huntington, and even the federal courts and the Caltrans Housing and El Sereno found that to keep them occupied is the main thing, because maintenance and everything has to be done by the resident. An empty storefront. Why establish an empty storefront in one of the highest traffic areas for visitors? The visitors going between Alvera Street and the Union Station, tremendous amount of volume. It seems strange, unless you have somebody to replace them, why evict? So we would highly recommend to keep them.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning,
Please set the
members
clock,
of the
please.
council. I just wanted to make a note on what was said previous by Ed Flores, that we did not, or we have had
You introduce yourself for the
Oh.
record.
Conchita Sosa, owner of Casa de Sosa. I did want to reiterate the fact that in this case, Mr. Andrade has not seen me, and I attempted to make an appointment with him yesterday morning. His secretary advised me to email him, and she also, she made it a point to tell me that it would not be a good idea and that he couldn't help me. There has not been any communication between him and I, unfortunately, yet with my partner in the LLC that is there with me in the business, there have been many conversations. And she has shared these conversations with me, and it's been uncomfortable, the conversations that she has had with Mr. Andrade. We have been offering him the money, and he has rejected it. The unlawful detainer that I received on July 15th had nothing to do with back rent. It was a expiration of a concession agreement from 1984 that expired in 1985. So it wasn't until later on that they brought up the money of the rent. And we've had the money, we have the money, so I don't see what the issue is. I don't see why, like this gentleman was saying, that they would leave an empty space, especially a business after 61 years of service to the community.
Can I just
We
ask
have-
a question for Mr. Andrade? Okay, and City Attorney, if you could listen to the question. If someone states they have the money to pay for whatever their back rent, 100%,
Yes.
why couldn't we accept it today?
I've been advised by the city attorney that once the courts ruled on the matter, that essentially I was no longer in a position to even negotiate with anybody because the agreement no longer exists. We
Is
have
that
no...
communicated in writing to the tenant?
Through the courts,
Well,
absolutely.
No, it was not.
The judgment. Are we in an area that we shouldn't be in? And would you advise that, Madam City Attorney, or are we?
I'm a little concerned that we're dealing with something that's a matter that's an active litigation. There was a
Right.
judge.
Can we do this in closed session?
Yeah, we could do it in closed session on that. Closed session is when we talk in the benefit of the interest. We will consider that. We'll hold this over right now. We'll do that. Ms. Sosa. Thank you. But thank you. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think that covers it for right now.
Okay. All righty.
Can I just ask one? Well, I'll ask in closed session.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Madam Clerk, now we're joined by a full committee. Let's just go over what we've gone through and add it, hopefully the support of my colleagues. Item number 3 was the change of location for a new athletic field in the 9th District, supported by the councilman of the 9th District. We approved that. Do you want to call that again?
Certainly. Item number 3 was recommended for approval. It was a report from the LA for Kids Steering Committee on a Prop K grant amendment.
Good. Item number 4.
That was a motion relative to a refund of an arts development fee.
Right.
That was also recommended for approval.
Project ever was built. So recommend approval.
Okay.
And we're going to hold number 5. Now, let's take up item number 1.
And item number 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Crystal Dominic to the Disabled Access Appeals Commission.
Great. Do we have anyone representing that commission? Okay, did we heard from Ms. Dominic?
She's also scheduled for council later today.
Okay, she may have been, I don't know who briefed her, but whoever briefed her maybe didn't, but she's scheduled for council. We're going to forward this to council. If we have any questions in council, we'll send it back to committee, but we'll recommend approval.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2.
And item number 2 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Keisha Whitaker to the Commission for Children, Youth, and Their Families.
Great. Ms. Whitaker here. Good morning. How are you? Welcome to City Hall.
Good morning. Thank you for receiving me.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your interest in serving the city of Los Angeles. Give us a little about your background, your passion, and what you would love to achieve.
Well, I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, but I've lived in Los Angeles probably for about 15 years. I have 3 daughters, and we reside in Hollywood. My passion is my family. I think it's really important to bridge the gap between city government and the local community. I'm a mother. I work on boards of several charities that, in regards to children, I work with LA's Best as well as Girls Inc.
Great. Well, this is good. And then your husband grew up in Los Angeles,
Yes, he did. He actually was born in Texas, but he was raised in Carson and Compton.
but went to Palisades High School, I think.
Yep, he graduated from Pali High.
And he got a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood with Johnny Grant.
Yes, he did. It was amazing.
And you know what's next to him?
No.
I was. So it was a great treat. It's a great treat. It's a beautiful day on the north side of the street. The whole family.
It was great. It was a great day. It was so many people
special.
there. It was really, really fun.
What's your husband's name?
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Oh.
Mr. Wesson?
I was just going to ask if you were a baseball fan.
Red Sox?
Dodgers.
I don't know if I could make this easy.
I think she covered the McCourts, so both Boston and LA, so.
Right.
All right.
Reyes?
I just want to say thank you for your support. These are not easy times, with this budget crunch and the crisis that's going to be, has been hitting on the nonprofit sector. These are very trying times, so I thank you ahead of time for your patience and your tenacity in addressing such critical issues in the city that's going through so much at this time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
No, thank you. The most important thing you said first is family. We all come from families, and families are what really start everything. The challenge that we have now, as Mr. Reyes said, and I know Mr. Wesson would agree, is we're in a flux of all our regular systems, so to speak. My only suggestion is you try to pick out 5 things that you think would touch the subject matter, and don't get overwhelmed, because you could look out there and I hate to use this pun, but you can't see the forest from the trees. I don't know if anybody ever did that before. But terrible, Herb, isn't it? I'm sorry. Terrible. But it become overwhelming.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you chip away at it and you make a difference. And you have 3 beautiful daughters, which are so important, and having that experience, we're highly going to recommend you for council, which will be later this morning, right?
Correct.
So you got an hour. Have you been to the top of City Hall?
No,
You have someone with you right here this morning? Yeah, just keep going to the Tom Bradley Tower, look at the history of Los Angeles, enjoy a little bit. And on the 4th floor, there's beautiful photos of Los Angeles, and then in council at 10. So call for a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service to Los Angeles.
Thank you very much.
You got it. Thank you. All right, we're going to go in executive session, so everybody...
One moment, please. I believe the other commissioner has arrived for item number 1.
Oh, thank you.
And item number 1 was the communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Crystal Dominique to the Disabled Access Appeals Commission.
Hi, Crystal. We already approved you because we felt if you're committed to accept this role, you're going to be in council. But we thank you, and tell us a little about yourself.
My name is Crystal Dominique. I was born in Glendale, raised in Eagle Rock, so grew up in the 14th District. I have an extensive background in real estate. I had the opportunity to work with a national company called Mako at one time as a site selector, and that's probably where I came across most of my experience with ADA and ADA issues. I have 2 beautiful boys, 20 and 11, and they are just everything to me. Between them and my work and really good food. Those are probably my biggest passions.
That's great. I think when you have a background in real estate, to understand the importance of balance, there's nothing worse than having someone who's not able to get to a building. But also there's a challenge of making sure that you could make that happen without overwhelming a situation, whether it's a restoration project, not new construction. New construction should be able to do everything, but restoration, which is a lot of us. Mr. Reyes, any questions?
No, you guys want to say thank you so much for your support, and when we look at buildings and designs, if there's any policy issues you think we should address from a building and safety and from a code point of view, I chair planning, land use, and management. I'll be more than happy to speak with you or my staff, and if there are design issues or there are technical issues that you are aware of that minimizes accessibility, please let us know, because those are the details that make the big difference in a person's life.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to recommend approval, and this will be in council this morning at 10.
Thank you.
You have a little time. If you want to go to the tower up, look at the top of Tom Bradley. You have someone with you in the department? You can give a little tour of City Hall. Thank you. That completes our agenda in open session. We're going to go into closed session, and if someone could read the regulations for closed session.
The city attorney can read the government code section.
Right.
It's Government Code Section 54954. I don't have the specific language with me, but generally, there's a notice requirement. We do have the item on the agenda. We can go into closed session and require Councilman Labange to state the topic that we're going to be discussing.
We're going to a closed session to discuss item number 5. Item number 5 is a matter concerning El Pueblo relative to the report for the general manager on the history of disputes involving El Pueblo. After we have our closed session, we will go back in open session and ask that the city attorney who represents El Pueblo report on anything that we did that they can report on, and then we'll conclude the meeting.
That is correct. And only essential
Staff
staff
or representative should be here.
can be
Thank
present
you.
during the closed session.
Correct. Okay. Aging Committee back in open session. Madam Clerk, if I could ask the city attorney to report and pursuant to section code
54956.9 of the Government Code.
on this case, and the case is,
The city versus Consuelo de Sosa.
okay, we thank you for the discussion, and we're going to adjourn this meeting now. There's no other matters before us, right, Madam Clerk?
Correct.
So, okay, we're going to hold this until be scheduled at some future date, whether we reconsider it again in this committee or send it to full council, still to be determined, but we thank everyone for their participation. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned.